Last couple weeks. We'll do a little recap here in a minute. Okay, good morning. Thank you, and welcome. My name is Julie Samuel Lambert, and I'll be your MC today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in person at our community center, and for those joining us on Facebook Live, to Kansas City Oasis. So for the past 10 years, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities. We welcome all, regardless of beliefs or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel, sincerely, that the human experience is better when it's shared. And we're so pleased that you have decided that you're gonna take this time and share it with us this morning, and you have chosen a very good morning to do so, I might add. All right, so we gather here around our 5 core values that you see behind me. People are more important than beliefs. Reality is known through reason. Human hands solve human problems. Meaning comes from making a difference. And be accepting and be accepted. Today's program, the people you are here to see, our featured speaker and musician, Calvin Arsenia, talking about paradise. Yeah. And also, one of our own community moments speaker today will be JJ Cantrell, so we'll be excited to hear what they have to say as well this morning. All right, there's going to be no further ado on my part. If you haven't seen Calvin Arsenia live, I'm so happy that today is the day that you get to do so. We have been gifted with his presence in just about every location I think that we've been. We were talking about it before the program. You might have seen him at Tony Aguirre. You might have seen him at the Uptown Theater. You might have seen him, at the Delta Athenaeum. I left one out. The Delta Athenaeum, you might have seen him on Zoom, even during that part of our history. But now, for the very first time, here at our home community center, let's give a warm welcome, Calvin Arsenia.
To think that love was a solution. Convinced there was ever a cure-all. And I waited around in perpetual slow obsolescence, already back to patching the seams. It ain't what it seems to be. Over and over and over and over again, I fall apart. Over and over and over and over again, I fall too hard. But I'm gonna be okay, whether you're in or And I took every single mirror down, 'cause I don't want to see malnutrition seeping from beneath this paper towel. It's much too much to clean up. So I open the window and pretend I'm picking roses in Versailles. The headlights look the same, going in or out. And I'm gonna be okay, going in or out. In or out. In or out. In or This song is about a fruit. I'd take that toothy grin over just about any other thing. You can bet your bottom dollar that I've been looking for your ring. But what would your mom say? And how would your father feel without a crowd of witnesses? How will we know it was real? We can't elope. Though wouldn't it be nice? But I need a photograph for our kids to laugh, so we can't elope. Consider those who came before us, they gave up their lives so that you and I could proudly hold each other tight. You know I love frosting, and I know you love cake. So let's invite everyone to come and celebrate. We can't elope, though technically we
Love it, love it. I feel like, and maybe you remember and maybe you don't, I feel like you introduced us to that album at Delta Athenaeum. I think it was right before it released even. Ooh, all right. Chills, chills, always. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Yes, that's right. Let's go to, not fangirling, Julie. You're supposed to be actually being the host of this program. Okay, let's get into our community celebrations for this week. So today is Adrian and Clark's 5th anniversary, and I see them right there. Congratulations to Adrian and Clark. We're so happy you're sharing your day with us, and this music, we arranged it just for you, so congratulations. June 10th is Rhonda Warren's birthday, so maybe shout out some, I don't see her here today, let's shout out some birthday love on social media. Anyone else with a birthday or celebration this week that we might have missed? Anyone? Oh, Ariston. Is it Ariston's birthday coming up? It was Wednesday, all right. So Ariston Cantrell's birthday was also this week. So let's give them a cheer if they're watching us online, Ariston. Okay. All right, so we have some exciting things now here in our new home, the Community Center. Thursday night dance classes. Will and Julie Manning, they will continue. I think we're about halfway through, aren't we? Yeah, will be the 4th week coming up. And we'll continue through June 27th. The good news is you can come by yourself, no partner needed. They're beginner classes and intended for dancers with no experience. So if you're interested, Thursday at 6:30 here at the Community Center. All right, now we're going to talk about a little bit about what we've been up to this past week. This past Thursday through Saturday, Oasis hosted a rummage sale. This whole place was full of very good stuff that people came and took off our hands. So many in the community donated those items, so we say thank you to everyone that donated. Many of you stayed last Sunday to help carry items from downstairs and help get them organized. And then even last night, after the sale was over, we had people that were here till late into the night getting us set up for today's program. So let's give all those folks a round of applause. And we're going to save one more special round of applause to Susan Rose Nickel, who I'm sure is exhausted and didn't make it this morning. So she was the master. Oh, she is here. Oh, hello, my darling. I really thought you'd be sleeping in. I would have been. And there's a table in the lot. She was the mastermind and really helped keep us all in line, which is not an easy task, I'm sure. There is a table of things that were left over that were all some of the really good stuff, free to Oasis community members as you leave today. So check that out. Okay. What else have we been up to this weekend? It's been a busy weekend. So here you see our group that participated in the Kansas City Pride Parade. So we want to thank our organizers, Julie Manning and Mark Menden, who did a great job of getting our unicorns all in a row and marching during a very warm, typical Missouri Saturday. We really appreciate all the effort that they went to. So let's give them a round of applause, our parade participants. Those unicorns were very popular, so March of the Unicorns might be in our future, so brace for that. And then another Pride-related activity, we're also hosting an info table at Pride Fest all weekend, going on now, clear until 5:30 today. It's in Thies Park across from the Nelson. Just out of curiosity, is anyone here for the first time because they stopped at our table? Anybody brand? Oh, well, hello, Fritz. You came on a great Sunday. I'm not sure that we can impress you quite to this level. Going forward, we're going to do our best, though. Calvin, can you come every week? Okay. So with that, we'll move on to something around the philanthropy that we do here at Kansas City Oasis. We partner with Micah Ministries on Mondays at about 5, and about 5:15 is when things get going. It's a kitchen that serves a meal plated style. People are served as opposed to waiting in lines. They have the option to take it to go or to be served which is really a nice change of pace for people that might have to wait in a lot of lines for various services. They help anyone regardless of race, gender, religious or non-religious affiliation, sex, sexual orientation, or any other trait. So that's something you can get involved in. Micah Ministry does have their own Facebook page with the Sign Up Genius if you'd like to get involved. And with that, we're going to bring up our board president to talk about what's going on with Fringe Festival this year.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Geelan, acting president of Kansas City Oasis, and I am running on empty as well as Julie, so we're going to probably tag team this, but we have been allowed to participate as a venue for Fringe Festival this year. So it's really exciting, and I know everybody's exhausted, so you have about a month to rest up so that, so we have about 7 performers that will be using this venue, and it starts on July 15th, which is a Monday. It usually goes usually starts on a Sunday, but that won't really affect us. Then it will go all the way through the weekend. So it's 2 weekends, 1 week, about 10 days. We will also get 30% of ticket sales, which is awesome. And we can also get 100% if we sell any food or drinks. So guess what we're gonna do? So get ready for that. If you don't know what Fringe Festival is, Julie's gonna tell you.
You were like, okay, so Fringe Festival. I wish I had some historical data on how long it's been going on. Many years. It's an international sort of thing that various cities put on. It's sort of a space for maybe alternative artists or new playwrights or new people just getting started out in the performing arts. Hopefully, I'm getting close. And what's exciting is you can come see it right here in your home, in your chairs that you're used to. There are, I think, a total of 33 performances.
Yeah. I think we've got 33 performances here at KC Oasis, 7 different artists. Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
We don't know if they're music or play. I mean, it'll be a variety of things.
But we're very excited about that. Again, human hands solve human problems. Our human problem this time is another call for volunteers, because you know we do everything with volunteers here. Nobody's paid anything. So mark your calendars.
So the volunteer positions, we'll put those out, but it's going to be Saturdays and Sundays are kind of full days, and Saturdays definitely till like 10:30 at night. Weekdays will only be, it's like from 5 to 10 or something like that. The techs from Fringe Festival will actually be taking care of the majority of it. They'll do ticket sales, all that. We will only need to do any concessions, so.
Yeah, so very specific volunteer jobs there. Thank you, Sarah. So hopefully, and we're also, I think, open to ideas for what we are going to provide for concessions too. So more to come on that, but mid-July, please put some holds on your calendars give us maybe a day or two where you're willing to help out. We'd appreciate it. With that, we'll move into our community moment. For those that are new here today, we have found out there are a few. Our community moments are an opportunity for a member of our community to present on a topic of their choice during a Sunday gathering. Today, we'll hear from JJ Cantrell. They have described themselves as strange, dense, and useful. And their warning label is, ooh, controversial, does not work as God intended. JJ.
Thank you, Julie. Well, howdy, everybody. I was supposed to talk about music, and then I figured I could do that. So, when I was a very young child, my parents, we went to an elementary school where I graduated class of 18. In that elementary school, of course, there was a tiny, tiny band program, and I started on clarinet. I hated clarinet. Closer, even still, I broke my own rule. The rule when you're holding a microphone and talking into it is, imagine there's a grapefruit sitting on the top of the mic. Keep your mouth inside that grapefruit. I will try to be mindful of my own conditions. So, didn't like clarinet. My parents said, that's okay. We want you to pick an instrument. And I went, drums. And my parents went, no. Take your time. You don't need to decide today. And I said, okay. Now, I'm 9 years old. And so I'm moving into my 9th year. It'd been a couple months. And my dad, bless him, made biscuits and gravy every morning of my life, except for Sundays where he made French toast. My parents love to cook. I love to cook. We all look like we love to cook. And my dad was making his usual biscuits and gravy, and we listened to 61 Country. I was living in a little town called East Lynn, just east of Harrisonville, Missouri, so down south, listening to 61 Country. And in the mornings when my dad made biscuit and gravy, like clockwork, Paul Harvey would come on with Rest of the Story. And I was sitting there eating my biscuits and gravy and listening to rest, and that was the rest of the story. And then the next song to come on was Foggy Mountain Breakdown by Flatt and Scruggs. Banjo song. I listened to it, and I was like, I want to play that. And my parents looked at each other and said, is that a banjo? They grew up playing Southern rock, doing Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner when they were in high school. And so they talked to my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, and said, Jacob wants to play the banjo. And my mom's mom went and dutifully looked through thrift stores and found the cheapest banjo in the world, which, of course, is wisdom. You don't want to, get a $1,000 instrument and be like, good luck, 9-year-old. But I ended up really liking playing the banjo. And we went through a few banjo teachers, but it was something that I was just willing to sit down and noodle on for like an hour a day most days of the week. And because I stuck with it, they got me a nicer banjo the next year. It was a $200. The first one was $75. Then I got the $200 model and continued to play. And my parents started going to festivals. There was a guy named Dick Hugiel. And Dick Hugiel would set up these little festivals and have local musicians play, and my parents would go, and everybody would camp. And the real feature was not going and seeing shows. The real feature was that everybody that went to these festivals was a musician. And every night, there'd be fires and, people camping, and everybody would sit in a chair, and we would play songs together every night. Strangers, new songs, old songs, and everybody would sit in a circle around the campfire like you do, and the songs almost always, somebody would sing a verse, and then there would be a solo section. And depending on how many people were there and what kind of song it was, sometimes everybody in the circle would take a solo. And then you'd go through the song and you'd get it, and then they'd do the last chorus and they'd end, and you'd move right on to the next song, and you would do this for hours at a time. If you ever, and you all have seen me up here playing, many of you, and you've seen me just literally listen to a song for the first time and play it. The reason I honed that skill was because year after year after year, I would go sit in a circle and listen to songs I'd never heard and have to figure them out on the spot. And then take a solo. One of the festivals that my parents began to go to was called the Walnut Valley Acoustic Music Festival and National Flat Picking Championship. Nobody calls it that. Everybody calls it Winfield. It is gigantic. Thousands of people go to Winfield, Kansas and gather in these tents, and they do have nicer headlining shows. One of the people that I saw there was Tommy Emmanuel, if any of you are familiar with the acoustic guitar virtuoso. And they would have guitar players like Stephen Bennett, and they would have bands like Newgrass Revival and Alison Krauss and Ricky Skaggs and any number of big headlining bands. But still, without fail, most of the people that went to this festival, all musicians of all manner of caliber, And every night after they got done watching the headlining show, everybody would gather around campfires, and here we'd go, one around the other. Everybody's taking a solo. And, we're all just jamming. And different kinds, there's two big segments of this festival. There's the Pecan Grove and the Walnut Grove. And the Walnut Grove are where the squares camp. And the Pecan Grove are where all the people that smoke dope camp. The first place I ever partied was at Winfield. But then, I went everywhere because I liked everybody. And Winfield had 4 main stages. And then in the campsite, over the years, some homegrown stages developed. There was stage 5, and stage 5 was this gigantic, people, when I say camp, it gets out of hand. People build giant structures and have, whole mess kitchens and army tents, and they'll feed, a camp would be 60 people all cooking together. And it's a huge ordeal. And, stage 5, homegrown camp with this big structure, and everybody, sign-ups would open up on Thursday day, and it would fill up a schedule, and then it would have its own schedule. And a lot of the headlining musicians would get on that schedule, and they'd reserve spots. But it would be they would improvise, and it'd just be earthy. They're just winging it up there. Stage 5 was fun. The other stage that developed was stage 6. Stage 6 came from a band that used to headline stage 3 at Winfield every year. The band was called Spontaneous Combustion. And because my parents went to all these festivals locally, and Spontaneous Combustion is from Kansas City, I grew up with these guys. They were better than me. And stage 6 was where all the jazz bluegrass players go. I say jazz literally, they would go and play jazz standards on bluegrass instruments. And year after year I would go, and this would be one of the circles that I would go, but I didn't sit in this circle, with the circle. I would move my chair back, and then I would listen and, try to play these songs. But this isn't straight, we're talking 20 chords in this song. Lord help me. But eventually, year after year, I would get a little better, and I'd learn more theory in high school, and I'd move my chair in a little bit more every year. And one year, the year Tommy Emmanuel was headlining the festival, and there was another guitar player, Stephen Bennett. They were all jamming, and we're sitting in this circle, and I still don't know the songs, but I got a pretty good ear at this point. So, I'm following along, and everybody else is, for these songs, these jazz songs, everybody takes a solo. And everybody sitting in that circle, professional musicians that could shred. They would just kill it. And here's me. And here come the solo, and I'd just kind of noodle around, and everybody would be like, good job, because they're very supportive, and I was still young. Nobody was like, oh, you're out, you're not good enough. Still very inclusive. And Leo Eltz is, and Roger, the two brothers that were the brothers in Spontaneous, very supportive. Leo. Leo's amazing. I love Leo. So I'm sitting in this circle this particular night, and it's late. And everybody, there's, all the chairs are full of all these professional musicians. There's one empty chair. It's right here, next to me. And then so we're jamming, we're playing tunes, and people start, oh, Stephen's coming by. Stephen? Oh, yeah, Stephen Bennett. He's going to play with us tonight. Stephen Bennett plays the harp guitar. He's an absolute monster. It'd be showing up and playing with, John Mayer coming in and just sitting in with y'all. But, different genre. And so I'm sitting there in the empty chair, and here comes Stephen. He sits down. Oh, my God. And then the next song they play is Duke Ellington's Caravan. If any of you are familiar, da 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 ba da ya da ya da da ba da 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 don't you go, and everybody's boogieing, and I'm like, thank God, because I know this one. And the solos start. They start right to my left, and they're going around, which means, guess who's soloing right before me? And I'm like, oh my God, well, here we go. And then it comes around and Stephen takes a solo and he just kills it. He's just shredding and doing a sweep picking on the acoustic guitar. The man is a beast. And he gets done And then I take off, and I'm playing banjo, and I'm playing as hard as I can, but I'm just not that good. But, you know, I get through the first section, and then in the second section, I'm like, screw it. And I a two-hand tap the whole section on banjo. And I do this, and I feel somebody go right on my shoulder. And then I get done, and I play the solo, and then the song ends. Stephen Bennett had just gone on my shoulder while I was two-hand tapping. One of the mandolin players sitting like directly across the circle from me, like everybody stopped and they're all staring at me. All these and the mandolin player says, "You are the most unorthodox banjo player I have ever seen," which I liked. And then, so I go back, you know, they play another song and I, you know, play along with them. And then I know, you know what? I'm good to go. I bounce. I get back to the campsite and I'm telling people this story the next day. And one of the guys we're camping with, he said, "He did that to you?" And I was like, yeah, it was pretty cool. He's like, you know, you don't understand. He and Tommy Emmanuel shared the set yesterday on the headlining stage, and they were doing that to each other. And that is the biggest musical compliment I realized I've ever received. Thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Woo, we have a more. All right. Welcome back from our coffee break. Hopefully you've refilled on some caffeinated beverages and some sugary treats. Who doesn't love? And take this opportunity to normally during this part I interview the musicians, but I'm not going to do that today because you're going to tell us all about yourself right after this. So let's give a warm welcome back to the stage, Calvin Arsenia.
Down on the Guthrie Green, you know we made a scene. I fell in love with that Egyptian man, but that plane ain't ever land. It was a Saturday, day. Remember that mess we made? It was a good one. They were in the drink cups, they were on the table, they were in the floor, they were in the bar. Where the hell did they come from? They were in my halo, they were on the counter, they were in the blankets, they were in my pockets. So we can't stop. Rose petals everywhere. We can't stop. Rose petals everywhere. Now I was sucking on nicotine when your name came on the screen. We trashed that singing bar. I smashed my air guitar. It was a Saturday, day. Tonic and Tanqueray, we just left it like that. And they were in the drink cups, they were on the table, they were on the floor, they were on the bar. Where the hell did they come from? They were in my halo, they were on the counter, they were in the blanket, they were in my pocket. Oh, we can't stop. Rose petals everywhere. Oh, they were in the drink cups, on the table, on the floor, they were in the bar. Where the hell did they come from? They were in my halo, they were on the counter, they were in my blanket, they were in my pocket. So we can't stop. rose petals everywhere. We can't stop, rose petals everywhere. We can't stop, rose petals everywhere.
Oh, yep. Before we transition over to Calvin as our speaker, let me just give a brief disclaimer that our programs here are designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, and not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by Calvin and not by Kansas City Oasis, so please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, the question and answer portion will follow. Oh, do I need to give you an introduction? I'm going to anyway. Calvin Arsenia, Paradise, the album, and more. So this is your latest album. Calvin, singer, harpist. I bet we could have guessed that part. And author, though, Calvin Arsenia has built a reputation for turning the arts world on its head. Voted Kansas City's best musician from 2018 to 2023. Not a small feat. Congratulations. In the pitch. So you've heard his music this morning. Now we're going to hear some of his story. Calvin owns the Greenwood Social Hall, which features amazing musicians performing in a space where they can shine and be heard. And so we have the opportunity to pick up his book, Every Good Boy Does Fine, which contains poetry and prose. Let's welcome to our podium, Calvin Arsenia.
If I said the devil made me do it, that'd be the easy way out. But it was God himself that dug me out of a ditch of doubt. The choices I made got me here in the first place. But the song of freedom resonates in my ribcage like da-da-dum, da-da-dum, uh-huh, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, uh-huh, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, uh-huh, da-da-dum, da-dum. Oh, laughter and passion can't heal you. Zealots can feel emptiness too. One by one, the moment's done and we become who we become. Years ago, someone gave me a tricky seed, and I decided I'd plant a shame tree. Feast and eat and drink, repeat the produce of the land. Man, I feel music in my fingertips. It was the experience I was after. No, it really was no room for common sense. It was the experience. Whoa, didn't know the consequence of the experience I was after. No, I really didn't know. No room for common sense. It was the experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience. Exhibit A, take me back to high school, where I would laugh, often laugh so much that I would drool. The notion of an emotional ocean was a spirit I was fairly acquainted with. We speak of peace like we know what it is, and we speak of health like we ain't got no disease. There's my old boy from the cornfields of Kansas, let the wind leave me empty-handed. I feel music in my fingertips. It was the experience I was after. No, it really was no room for common sense. It was the experience, whoa, didn't know the consequence of the experience I was after. No, I really didn't know. No room for common sense. It was the experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience, whoa, experience. Good morning. Let's take 3 deep breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Slower this time. Thank you. I'm always behind my harp, so this is a new experience. But I thought that I had some stories and things that I would like to share and that maybe some of you would be curious about. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to share some of my story and some of my the inspiration and impetus behind the creations that I've made. And hopefully this will also inform the next time you see me and what kind of things that are going on in my brain and preparation for performances and shows and kind of put some context behind my songs. So this last song I played was a song called Experience that I wrote when I was probably 20 years old or something like that. And I wrote it on the guitar, and it speaks about like kind of who I was in my early days as I was kind of progressing through life and leaving the church. I spent some time as a missionary and living in Edinburgh, Scotland, and in that time I had been assigned a life coach. Raise your hand if you've heard of life coaching before. So I like to say that life coaching is like therapy is about your past and unraveling it and the tales and mysteries of your past, the puzzles of your past, and that life coaching is how to project and create and craft your future and to have accountability around your future and looking at who you are as an individual and measuring your psychometrics and thinking about your future. So in that time, I was asked to write the story that I want to tell with my life as if it was in past tense. And as a 22-year-old, I decided that I was going to play my harp, learn how to play the harp, by the way, and that I would make a living and a name for myself as an internationally recording and performing artist, as a harpist, and that I would be surrounded in rose petals. So that was back in 2012 that I made that projection, and now I need to make a different bucket list. My friends and I, we put on concerts and we make these shows that I will talk about a bit, but we started using discarded roses because they were cheap and free. We have kind of made friends with a few florists in Kansas City, and roses, they do really well, like kept out overnight. Better than like, a more delicate flower, and the petals are prolific. So rather than using the blooms in vases, we just shredded them and threw them all over the floor, and so this just became a theme of my work. I grew up playing music, started on guitar, as a worship leader in churches all around Johnson County, and this was me playing tableside at somebody's cocktail hour for a wedding. And in that time, as a worship leader, I had vowed that I would only ever sing songs to Jesus, and I was fired up for God. But obviously things have changed, but I still think that music can be such a healing and rewarding endeavor for community building and bridge building. This is the first time that I was featured in the pitch after I moved back to Kansas City, and I was pretty stoked about that. I don't remember what the article is about, but so all day I dream about soccer, is what Adidas stands for. In my case, all day I dream about being remembered, being understood, being authentic, giving people hope, managing through difficult truths, both personal and universal, telling and platforming undertold stories, and building bridges for disparate communities, genres, or concepts. Building the bridges. I've got a whole gaggle of people around me that help me put on shows, always adorning. I had a friend who told me that even if you don't get to decorate every room, because I love decorating and I love making an environment, and that's a very big part of my creative process. I don't always have the opportunity to decorate the room, so he said, adorn yourself as if you're decorating the room, and then the room will be decorated. And so this is kind of a little bit of that process. I've been a teacher and love teaching and drinking lots of flowers. The 4 learning styles, I spent, as a teacher, I spent a time in a Montessori classroom and really, really delved into a space where I was able to think about pedagogy, and not just pedagogy in the context of the classroom, but pedagogy in the context of life. And that the 4 learning styles are not just how we learn, but it's how we receive and digest information. So they are visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. I don't think I need to go into those. So that has informed my work because I want to communicate and I want to tell stories and I want my stories to be heard, and we are all different, the way that we receive and process information. Yeah? Amen? Okay. Then we have the 5 senses that also, I'm going to be flying through these slides, so you have to keep up with me. I know it's a sleepy Sunday, but keep up with me, all right? So we've got the 5 senses that also inform my practice, because we have the 5 senses that and there are others, but the 5 main senses that we also use to digest and receive information. So as a storyteller, it's important for me to use the vehicles, all of the facilities that we have as a human species to communicate and to entertain and to tell stories and to be heard, right? So we have touch, sight, hearing, taste, and smell. So using the 4 learning styles and the 5 senses to accomplish the things that I dream about all day, to being remembered, understood, authentic, difficult truths, telling stories, and building bridges. So we do that by making sugary substances. I want to provide a way for my audience, or your audience, using all of the methods and tools within our realm of influence to invite an audience to come along this journey with me. The first big show that I did in Kansas City was called Catastrophe. It's all about my love life. So I wanted to play a show that demonstrated that I could. Well, at the time, I was playing a lot of coffee shops because as a singer, songwriter, solo guitar kind of guy, I just got invited to do a lot of things where people weren't paying attention. And I wanted to figure out how I could create such a show or kind of a scenario that would never let me be invited to that space again. So I involved projection to satiate the eyes. I had projection that was coordinated with each song. I had roaming models that were costumed. I had the band that was costumed. I had environmental lighting. I had scents that I had actually put on the models, so as they walked through the crowd and through the people at the record bar, that the people would smell the mix of Egyptian musk and lily. I had different cabbage floral arrangements. I had dancers kind of bumping into people through the crowd. I had a massage therapist in the VIP area. We had wedding cake cupcakes for the taste, and my mom did a whole spread for, and we had a wine tasting too. And the band was a lot of people on that stage. And so here's a couple of stills from that. I was painted in front of everyone on stage, and had a really cool thing at the record bar after they moved. This is the models when they were in one spot for a moment during that show. So yeah, I learned how to play the harp when I was 20 years old. I've done a lot of cool photo shoots. Okay, the next one, an evening in, which was in 2017, and actually happy Pride, everyone. This was the day that I came out to my parents. I wanted to play a concert with a higher ticket price. So the tickets were $50 a person, VIP was $100. The side we had red, white, and black, and everyone was dressed in these different colors, and it was like, what is it like to spend an evening in my brain? And we had, as people entered entered the space, Chef Carlos Falcon, who's the chef of Jarocho Mexican restaurant, I asked him if he would make a beautiful paella, so it was very fragrant as people came in. I wanted them to get hungry. And made sure that there was no plastic glasses, and there was rosé and whiskey for everyone. And that the audience got to sit surrounded by the band at that show. And actually, why don't I have pictures of that one? Anyway, here's another show. This is me as Marie Antoinette at Party Arty a few years ago. This is me taking a bubble bath. This is some of my favorite friends and collaborators. That's Simon Huntley up at the top, and Ashley Miller also known as Gemettatone. Happy Pride. I've collaborated with Flutie Nastiness. She's an amazing artist here in Kansas City. And these are some of my best friends. All of the things that I do, this was a birthday party where we were all Snapchat filters, and I was puking rainbows. And Chris Dong right here, she's my graphic design artist and has been with me since day one. So all of the illustrations and all of the CDs and albums and stuff on my website is all her. And this is a jeweler that I've worked with, and she's done a lot of creations that I've worn through the years too. So that brings us up to Cantaloupe. I wanted to perform at a historically black theater on the east side of Kansas City. I was really trying to think about how to integrate my audience and how I can do something that would be different to make an impact on the east side of Kansas City. And so I brought 350 people over there, ticket purchasers. I had a 30-piece band. I had fresh roses. I had a lychee on the VIP table. There were fresh cantaloupes all over the place, and tango dancers and men cutting logs. And we had a 12-piece string section that was integrated into the audience as well. And costume changes, of course. And I also, with some of my garments, I want to show my audience that I am the same whether I'm in a skirt or in pants. That if you love me in pants, that you can also love me in a skirt. And that if you can love me in a skirt and in pants, that you can love anyone in a skirt and pants. That the person is more important than the clothing. And yeah. And this is a selfie with my mom. That was that day. And yeah, so that's Cantaloupe. Another project that I've been a part of and really, really grateful to be part of is called Savor the Sound. And Savor the Sound is an initiative between, a collaboration between myself and Chef Selena Tio, who has the Belfry downtown. We collaborate and coordinate music to food, a 4-course or a 5-course dinner. That is a fundraiser for Build Tribe, which is a vocational training program for foster care youth in Kansas City. And so we come together and spend a few sessions working together in the kitchen and tasting food, and then I write music that is inspired by her food, and then she makes food inspired by my songs. And then during the event, she presents me with the dessert, where I taste the dessert for the first time. They have the live auction. During the live auction, I'm backstage composing a song on the spot for the dessert, and then after the live auction, I come back out and perform the song that was inspired by the dessert. And so it's very risky business, but it's always panned out really well, and I'm the right guy for the job. And so, yeah, so that's what we do. So this is a picture from this last year. It happens usually in either January or February. So if you're interested or see anything coming about the Savor the Sound, do come or send your friends. This last year, we were able to raise $177,000 in one night. Which is not typical for anything, anywhere. Not here. Anyway, that was crazy. But it was very impressive. So that was kind of an enduring kind of collaboration that I do. This is 2020. What a weird time to be alive. It was devastating for everyone in different unique ways, and so I won't sensationalize my experience. I was in Kansas City during the time. And it was the first time that I noticed watching the same the yard outside the same window for 12 consecutive months, and I noticed when the clover bloomed was a different time than when the violets bloomed. It's a different time than when those little white stars ones come up, and it's different than when the dandelions come out. And I watched the year through the different weeds growing in the yard, and what a beautiful experience. I was really grateful for that. And then I was doing a lot of live streams up until the time of George Floyd's murder, and when all we could do was the only way that we could connect with individuals was through our phones, and my phone just kept talking about how dangerous it was to be a black person in America, and that was so hard for me to deal with. And somebody who has been chasing beauty as my core resounding value, I thought, how can I make this beautiful? And I just just wrestled. There was no other thing to think about. How do I make this beautiful? And I remember I was teaching a ukulele live stream every Thursday during that first part of the pandemic, and I was playing Hallelujah just there in May after the murder had happened, and every time I was opening my live streams, I just couldn't stop crying, and I was like, okay, I need to take a break from this and do something else. And so I used a part of my stimulus check to get a subscription to Ancestry.com, and started rebuilding my family history, because one of the things I learned in my time in church was that you cannot argue people into love. You cannot argue anybody into anything, really. I had so many hours of debating people. All you can do is tell your story. And what I realized was that I didn't know my story. I knew all kinds of other things. I knew other people's stories, but I didn't know my own. And so in my research, I came across this amazing article. Actually, will you grab the copies? So I printed out 5. Angela's got it. So I've got 5 copies of this article that I will pass around, and you guys can go ahead and read it or not. It says, a former slave observes her 100th anniversary. This is my great-great-great-grandmother, Alice Gilliam Scott. She was born near Pamplin, Virginia, in the year 1859. And she was my most recently previously enslaved ancestor. And the article that's being passed around is very funny. She's got quite a sense of humor, and some hard truths that are in there too. In the article, I read about her 100th birthday, where she had she had 138 living descendants at the time of her 100th birthday. Her birthday was in April. My father was born in March of that year, so he was one of those 138 living descendants. And it was just really an interesting wake-up call to know that my father was born in a world where there were still people who had been enslaved in America, and that this is not something that was far away. It's not a far-off thing. It is who we are as a country. And so in that time, sorry, one more thing about the article. So when they gathered around for her 100th birthday, all of those descendants, all those people, she had 14 of her own children. There was just babies everywhere. I read another book that mentions her and says that she's a midwife. And so, yeah, she was rearing and bringing kids in and helping them get acclimated into this planet. And they celebrated her with 3 cakes and 100 red roses. And it wasn't until I read that they had just loved her so much and celebrated her with 100 red roses that it was at that moment that I felt like I belonged to my family for the first time. Most of my family is based in central rural Virginia, so they talk a little different than me, they eat a little different than me, their interests are somewhat different than me, and yet here I am with you, Alice. So I wrote a lot of my thoughts at the end of 2020. We were still under lockdown, in a book of poetry and prose called Every Good Boy Does Fine. And I want to play a song for you that I wrote at that time. Of the free, home of the brave, some the grown-ups used to say, but they forgot to mention, despite good intentions, 400 years and ain't much changed. They tell the story of American glory, but the dream got in scars and stripes forever. Scars and stripes forever. You could think I should forgive and forget, but I haven't even started my healing yet. Just scars and stripes forever. Watching, and still we're marching on the lands that were betrayed. My body matters, my heart is shattered, but I'll keep singing anyway to tell the story of American glory, but they won't wash our part away. Scars and stripes forever. Scars and stripes forever. You could think I should forgive and forget, but I haven't even started my healing yet. Just scars and stripes forever. Lady Liberty, your torch shines for me. I hope one day you get to see your people living free. On that day we'll sing, we'll let freedom ring, the chorus of our voices thundering through humanity. Will you sing that with me, please? Keep singing. Louder, louder. Land of the free, home of the brave. 400 years and ain't much changed. Zooming through. In 2020, I also got to make a film. I was a part of the film score, or I made the film score. I started the film, and I actually edited this movie as well, called Summer in Hindsight, which went on to win a bunch of awards all across the world because no one else was making movies. And actually, no, it's a pretty good movie, and we'll be screening it at some point in Kansas City. So 2020 was quite an ordeal, and so the question was like, how am I possibly able to cope with living in a world like this? Which brought me to creating songs like Scars and Stripes, the songs that are featured on this new record called Paradise. And I was thinking about like how do I find beauty? How do I get to paradise? And how do I live in this space? And so I looked it up. The Garden of Eden. an abode of the righteous after death, abode of God and the blessed, heaven, any place of great beauty and perfection, or any place or condition of great satisfaction, happiness, or delight. And so I started researching the Garden of Eden and the book Paradise Lost. I didn't get very far in that one. And so I went back to what I know, which is the Garden of Eden, and I was like looking through all of the texts, and I was like, this story is horrible. Why? Why do we get kicked out on the first page? And why is it that everything gets blamed on Eve? And why did we not get to just stay there? And why is Satan or the Lucifer, the snake, what happened between him and God? And in Ezekiel, in the book of Ezekiel, it talks about, I forget the exact passage, but in the book of Ezekiel, I think it's 28, talks about how he was adorned in every jewel or every kind of precious stone. And actually, if you go through the stones and look them up in order, they're in the order of the rainbow. So he was dressed in rainbows. He was one of, the worship leader of heaven. He was in charge of all the worship of heaven, was Lucifer, the one with the wings. And so I decided that I wanted to play Lucifer, and I wanted to play Lucifer in a way where there was never an evil intent, that God said, I want you to be fabulous. I want you to sing all the songs and write all the songs, and I want you to be in charge of all the music. And he was just like, that's good. And that's what it was like for the rest of eternity. And that we were never cast out of Eden, and that heaven and Eden and angels and humans were always in bliss and harmony, and that is the world that we're living in today. And you know what? I really believe that we can tell better stories than the ones that we were given as children. But we have to write them. And so I wrote a story that, what if there was no misogyny? What if there was no shame? What if there was no judgment? And what if I play Lucifer and he remains beloved? What if we're not evil? What if we never left paradise? So this was the save the date. Because it's about self-love and recognizing the deity within, right? So for Paradise, I'm wrapping this up, I wanted to play a set of music that navigated my pandemic and early post-pandemic experience, that heaven crash landed into the Garden of Eden, that we were having a garden party, that the smell was wet dirt and lightning, and so I found some perfumes for that, that the touch was foliage, and I also had a garage sale of my clothes, and that there were floral tastes and tingling sensations for the mouth and the drinks, and there was an orchestra and a choir. We had somebody at the pearly gates making sure to check everyone in. So there was this exchange between two angels. We had, the block party with live music and free food in West Eden in the West Bottoms. And Samriel for the HOA president. We just wanted it to feel like an actual block party that would, what would it look like if it was happening today. We had custom drinks, custom ice cream. We had a tarot artist, reader, Terry Quinn. The room was full and it was hot. We were sweaty. If you weren't there, you missed it. Oh, this is Jean Soundwaves, who's a choir. They're going to be recording at Greenwood Social Hall soon. And if you haven't had them here yet, you should have them here. We had projections. We had a whole band that was behind the projection screen. And actually, I only played harp for a couple of songs, which is watching a video, and it just so happened to be Mariah Carey live in Japan. And at that concert, she had a video of Boyz II Men to do One Sweet Day with her instead of them being there live. And I was like, well, she's singing along with them on the track, but it looks like they're there. And anyway, so I recreated the moment and had my friend film, enter her phone, and send me a video, and then we projected her on the screen. And then we danced the night away. So this is the cover of the Paradise record. A couple things I wanted to point out to you, that this is a dried okra, which is like a very precious food for West Africans and came through the diaspora that way. And it was pink, and I was like, yes, pink okra. And then everything I'm wearing in this photo is dead. It's things that were discarded or deemed trash. And I want to say that we can make even beautiful things out of these things. My gaze is to the left, So in cinematography world, when things go on the screen from right to left, that is usually somebody returning home or going back in some way, so it's a retrospective. So this is my album looking back, looking at my life, and how do I create a paradise out of these parts? Which is in contrast to my other record, Cantaloupe, looking forward, the gaze is lowered, gaze is raised here. There are things that I wanted to incorporate in these album covers about who I was at the time that I made the record, and I really am proud of this album, which is for sale here today. But more importantly, I just wanted to share a bit about who I am as an artist and some of the reasons that I create, some of the things I think about in my live shows, and encourage you to learn your story, to tell your story, and to use all means necessary to be able to connect with other individuals around you. So that brings us to our Q&A.
Thank you. Before we get started with question and answer, I'm just going to remind everyone that a question has the question mark on the end. If you want to chat with Calvin later, you can do so, but please make sure that you are asking a question. We'll start with Gary over here.
Given your experience and background playing the guitar, when you decided to take up the harp, did you have to take lessons, and when did you decide to take up the harp? That was two questions.
I was 20 years old when I decided to learn how to play the harp. I really was obsessed with Björk's album Vespertine, and I was also really inspired by Florence and the Machine. Back in that time, she was her first tours in the United States. She toured with a harpist as her main accompaniment, and so I was looking for a harpist in Kansas City that would be able to do the same thing for me, and I could not find them. So in that time, I found that there was a harp place where I could rent a harp from, and I did take lessons from lots of different people. It was mostly YouTube for that first year, and then when I moved to Edinburgh, I took lessons from the harpist of the Scottish Chamber Orchestra, and over the years, I've just always taken lessons from my friends. Yeah.
Okay, David?
Does anybody still play the lyre, the instrument of Orpheus and Nero?
I don't see the lyre out there very often these days, but if there's anything I can do in this world is to bring back old instruments and make them hip again. So I'll work on it.
Okay, any questions on this side?
Got two up here.
Oh, two up here. Here we go.
Thank you. Does handedness matter when you play the harp, like left or right-handedness? Make any difference?
No, although I do know a person who plays in the like disabled orchestra of London, and she had giantism in her right ring finger, so it was removed. So she played backwards because the more of the melody was in the higher register, so she would hold it on her left shoulder. So she kind of did play the opposite way. But most people, it's kind of like piano, where it's just like one of the hands going to be easier to we'll listen to you better than the other.
Okay. Who am I missing? Okay.
Is there anything else you can tell us about your transition out of a faith-based community?
Yeah. A couple things. I think that you can take your time. That's not something that's easy to do or to rush. So find your community and find a community and find great people where you can be yourself all the time around, and that takes time. And I think I was lucky because I had music as a way to like get in with other people. But whatever the hobby is, whatever the way that you connect with other people, I think one thing that is interesting is like in church, the hobby is that thing, is the belief, and so after I left that, I have like friends on one hand that I have kept since since I left that community, that we actually had real relationships, right? And so it's, I think, just about finding real relationships in life, about people that you actually like being around, and not just because of a shared belief. Not just because of that, like what other things are interesting to you, or what things you like to talk about, or eat, or explore, or look at, find real relationships and real friendships, and I think that leads to a satisfying life.
Okay, I think probably just one more.
So some of us have seen you in some quixotic things, and she and I actually saw you act in Persephone. So do you plan to do any more acting things or more those outside kind of individual things?
Yeah. Well, right now I think I'm focused on Greenwood. So I kind of took over Greenwood Social Hall, which is in the West Side neighborhood. That started in December. So we just hit 6 months, basically. And that's kind of where I'm spending all my spare time is creating these kind of environments and hosting other musicians, both in Kansas City and from all around the world. But I will probably do some things next year. So yeah, here, next slide is follow me.
There you go. There you go.
And stay in touch. I've got a mailing list on my website. I've got stuff on social media, and follow us at Greenwood Social Hall as well. And come and support local artists in a way that's where they're respected, and we really want both audiences and artists to be there, which is somehow rare in some venues. But yeah, do come by.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Are we going to be greedy and ask you to play one more song?
I can.
One more?
Okay, cool.
Thank you. And while he gets ready, I'll just remind everyone that Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and the volunteer hands of all of us. So please consider donating. Here's our website, kcoasis.org/donate, or there's Venmo here on the screen and back on the corkboard over there.
And flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. Rain and snow on everyone, so many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions that I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and drones and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dance in the way that you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, oh, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusion that I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds and things gained, and living every day. Oh, I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusion that I recall. I really don't know life at all. It's life's illusion that I recall. I really don't. I really don't. I really don't know life.
Everyone here knows I cry at everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. Whew, okay. I'm fine. Everything's fine. What a wonderful morning. If you'd like, I'll get through the last of these announcements really quickly. If you want to see each other later, we still are tabling at Pride Fest. There's an opportunity to meet up there. There's food trucks there at Pride Fest. Or it looks like maybe another group is going to Crown Center Food Court, so there's a couple different options. We're going to ask for help in cleanup. There is a sign-up board in the back. We could use some help with cleanup, so if everybody can pitch in, it doesn't take very long. So there's some descriptions in the private page as well. But for today, if you could check the whiteboard in the corner to my left, you'll see maybe some help that we could use. We'll talk a little bit about next week's program. Next Sunday, our featured speakers are Kim Kuntz and Megan Mooney. They'll be discussing the Death Cafe, and trumpet player, I might not get this right, Albert will show his unique sounds with the horn. He has been someone that's performed at the Greenwood Social Hall, so you might have seen him there. So again, we'd like to thank this week's presenters, Calvin Arsenia, JJ Cantrell. Thank you for being here, or for tuning in, or for watching this months later, which I probably will be doing for a while. And with that, it's been my pleasure to be your host. I'm Julie Samuel Lambert. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.